Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing a review for Terrifier 3 today. There is going to be spoilers all the way through this review, guys. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, then maybe don't watch this review. However, if you've seen the movie or you don't mind spoilers, then continue watching. As I was walking to my seat to see Terrifier, this old couple came up behind me. They must have been about 65, 70 years old, and they sat down just in front of me at the left-hand side. And when they were sitting there, I was like, are they in for the right movie? I'm not sure they should be here for Terrifier 3. Obviously, that's age discrimination, of course, but it just seems like they shouldn't have been there. So I wanted to see their reaction to some of the kills that happened in the film, and would they walk out? Well, I'll let you know later on. Sienna returns from Terrifier 2 and she checks herself out of rehab at the beginning of the movie. Jonathan has moved on with his life. He goes to college now, and Sienna moves in with her aunt and uncle who've got a daughter, Gabby. Meanwhile, Art and Victoria lay dormant for 5 years until they're disturbed by John Abrams and his colleague. Straight off the bat, this film is structured a lot more professionally than the previous Terrifier films. Now, Terrifier 2, of course, was over 2 hours long. It was almost 2.5 hours, whereas this one, they've cut it down to just under 2 hours. They've made it more manageable, especially for a film in this subgenre. With returning characters, it feels a lot more coherent, and it feels like there is a lot more at stake. When there's no returning protagonists for a horror film, you can't really get behind anyone as quickly as you can when you know these characters. That's why I didn't really mind the runtime of Terrifier 2, because this is the first time we get to see Sienna. This is the first time we get to see Jonathan. So I think telling their story in Terrifier 2 is very important. So the runtime is justified. Now that they're established characters in Terrifier 3, we don't need that bloated runtime. Damien Leone mentioned in an interview that he wanted to make this one less supernatural than Terrifier 2. And as much as I liked the supernatural elements in Terrifier 2, I would have preferred if they stripped it back a little bit. So I was happy to hear that he said that. However, when I watched the movie, I felt like this film felt more supernatural than the previous film. It doesn't mean I didn't like this one. I was just a little bit surprised as to how much of the supernatural elements were brought forward, and it was a lot more. Gabby was a good addition to the film because she's a child, and the way the movie played out from the very beginning, nobody's safe, even children. So it was quite nerve-wracking to see if Gabby was going to make it or not. In terms of it feeling like a Christmas movie or just using Christmas as a gimmick to sell Terrifier, I think it worked. I think it had the music was there, the lights were there, the snow was there. It did feel like a Christmas themed horror film. If we look at the kills, because of course the kills are an important part of the Terrifier franchise, I still think Ali's kill from Terrifier 2 tops every kill in the franchise. It doesn't mean the kills in Terrifier 3 are tame. If you lined up all the kills in all of the Terrifier movies, I feel like there's more going on with Terrifier 3. So when you look at them, I think the best kills all come from Terrifier 3, but the most brutal kill for me is still Ali's kill from Terrifier 2. With that being said though, the practicals in this movie were out of this world. They looked genuinely horrible. Now, I do work in the industry, unfortunately, where we see a lot of death and bodies. And when you watch this film, this does look really realistic. Maybe seeing it in the theatres as well made Terrifier 3 feel more brutal because of the sound that you're getting in the cinema. And that just makes me think to myself, how on earth did they get a cinematic release for this film? Now, I'm not complaining, of course, but when you watch this film, I was watching it going, how did that pass the MPAA and the BBFC? How are we getting to see this glorious film on the big screen? Is unbelievable. If I have to choose my most brutal scene that maybe comes close to rivaling Ali's kill in Terrifier 2, it has to be that ass crack scene in this film. That was absolutely nuts. No pun intended. Going back to the supernatural elements, this dagger still holds the key to something in this franchise that we'll probably find out in Terrifier 4, but we see a cool bit of foreshadowing near the beginning of the film where Gabby says that she likes to open up Christmas presents, see what's inside, and then close it back over. Now, there is a scene where Sienna goes to get that magical dagger and she hides it in a box and wraps it in wrapping paper. Gabby being Gabby, she opens it up and sees what's inside and closes it over again. We don't see that, but we just know that that's something that she's going to do. So when we get to the finale of the movie, Gabby says, oh, when they're under attack by Victoria and Art, Gabby asks, can Sienna open one last present, please? And they say, yeah, of course. So Sienna opens up the present that ends up being the dagger. We also think that there's something about Sienna's dad that holds a key to defeating Art the Clown. We do see Sienna's dad in this one eventually, and he's played by Jason Patric. We had quite a lot of stars in this film. We had John Abrams, like I mentioned, Jason Patric, who plays Sienna's father. We had Daniel Roebuck, Clint Howard, Tom Savini as well. We even had Marie Mesa, who returned as a receptionist in Terrifier 3. If you remember, she played the girl from the original Terrifier short. The finale felt so surreal. It almost felt like a nightmare, like something that Sienna was going to wake up from, but she never did, which means it did actually happen. We've got a brutal kill with Sienna's aunt. We see that her uncle was decapitated and stuck against the wall, but we don't know where Jonathan is. And then we find out, unfortunately, that Jonathan did die. His head, well, he was beheaded and put into a birdcage, and the rats were just eating his face. It was quite a shame because I wanted to see Jonathan a little bit more than we did, but somebody big had to die and it had to be Jonathan. We also got more of an understanding of Art. We know now that Art the Clown can speak, but not physically. He speaks through what we would say is a vessel or a conduit. In this instance, he speaks through Victoria. So when Victoria is speaking throughout the film, it's not actually Victoria that's speaking, it's Art that's speaking through his vessel, through his conduit. And of course, Victoria died in this one, so we'll probably get another conduit or vessel that Art will speak through in Terrifier 4, which I'm very excited for. For an independent movie to come this far, it's unbelievable to think of the journey that Damien Leone and the rest of the crew have came from, because when you see an independent horror film, you see it, it's done, it's out of the way. But with Damien Leone, he gave us Terrifier 1, then he gave us Terrifier 2 with that small, limited cinematic release. And then we're getting a wider release for Terrifier 3. We've even got Terrifier 3 in the cinemas in the UK. That's how far they've come in this franchise. I do believe that Art the Clown could eventually become this iconic character who can stand toe-to-toe with the likes of Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and the rest of those big, massive horror characters. So I think Terrifier 3, guys, it was pretty epic. Going back to that old couple though, guys, I am happy to report that the old couple sitting near me didn't leave. They didn't moan and groan. They actually enjoyed the film. And anytime there was a horrible death scene on screen, I saw them looking at each other and smiling at each other and sometimes giggling as well. And I think that's going to be my goal in life. If I can live to the age that they are and still enjoy a film like Terrifier 3 on the big screen and have a giggle, then I'll be happy. So what are your thoughts on Terrifier 3, guys? What are your thoughts on the whole franchise? Do you think the Terrifier movies are getting better and better as they go along, or do you think they're kind of fizzing out? Leave your comments down below, let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back seat! Tell me where you are, John!
Wolfman's got a knife.